G'day Internet, Max Wright here, and cruising around the Internet, it occurred to me that almost everybody has no idea what inflation is. To them, it's just rising prices. They have no idea what causes it, how to fix it, are the government strategies going to work, or is it going to make it much, much worse? So in this video, I'm going to explain inflation to you like you're a 5-year-old, but the good news is you will know it better than the politicians and the pundits on TV. So let's get into it. Here is the way to think about inflation. Think about all of the money in the universe, all of the money, right? All the cash, all the deposits in the banks, all of it. It's all sitting there in one big bucket, right? It's there. And on the other side of a scale, you have all of the goods and services produced, right? Everything that gets produced over here, everything that the entrepreneurs out there are producing, the goods, the services, it's all in this big bucket. You've got these two big buckets, and they create an equilibrium, which is price, right? Now, if you want to understand inflation, it's very, very simple once you understand these two buckets. Think about what would happen if you increase the supply of money, right? You've got this bucket over here full of all the money. Let's say you doubled the amount of cash in there and you sent it out into the world in the form of, say, stimulus checks. Or there's lots of other ways you can do it. Tax rebates, there's a million different ways you can create money and spend it out and send it out into the universe. What happens when you double? I choose double because it makes it obvious, right? You see it. If you double the amount of money out in the world that all the people have in their bank accounts in their pockets, they all of a sudden are richer, they have more money, and that money can go and chase the same number of goods and services. So what does it do? It bids up the price of the goods and services. And what you see is an inflation in prices. You see the price go up, all right? Imagine what would happen if the bucket of money, you chopped it in half. Some law was passed and 50 cents of every dollar in your pocket and in your bank account and on your credit card and everywhere else was all chopped in half. Now the volume of money goes down by half. How much money is left to chase all of the goods and services? So half. Obviously what happens is the price is going to get bid down. You just can't bid up the price to things. And people, even if they manufacturers, they produce goods and services, they've got things sitting in their warehouse, they're never going to sell them at the price that they were going to sell them. They have to liquidate the stock, drop the price. They might even take a loss on it, but they definitely are not going to get the prices they used to get, right? So you can cause inflation and deflation by changing the money supply. There's something else you can do. Over here, you can look at the other bucket, right? What happens if you did something that stopped or reduced production by like about 50%? Let's say 1 year where the country's producing 1 million tables, 1 million chairs, 1 million cars, something like that. All of a sudden something happens, like say, oh, I don't know, a pandemic. You ban people from going to work, you make them stay at home, and all of a sudden they can't go out to the factories, to the jobs, and produce the goods and services. So now you've got this bucket of money, it stays constant, and you've got the amount of goods and services that are being produced are way less. Well, now you have this phenomenon where you've got this money chasing much fewer goods and services, so it bids up the price of those goods and services. Likewise, imagine what would happen if somehow you managed to double the output of the nation, right? All of a sudden, all the goods and services got doubled. There's twice as much fun stuff that you want, food, cars, chairs, tables, you name it. There's twice as much of it as out there. Well, now, obviously, this amount of money chasing that much goods, it's not going to bid up the price anywhere near as much, right? It's going to actually lower the price of the goods. So with this example, I hope you guys get a really good understanding of what is the inflation. There's two buckets, and both buckets can go up or down, right? The two buckets are the quantity of goods and services produced and the amount of money. So let me flick over here to the comment that I read, and it was right here. It was, why is trying to bring down demand ever a good thing? Isn't there another way to bring inflation down? And the answer is yes, there is. So the current Fed strategy is to destroy demand, right? Now let's take a look at this. How are they trying to achieve it? They're doing it by, the primary weapon at the moment is raising interest rates. Right? So raising interest rates is destroying demand. Yes, it is destroying demand. That is true because it's making everyone poorer. But tell me, does the entrepreneur who needs to borrow money to expand his factory to produce more goods and services, is he also having to pay extra? Is he maybe not going to take out that loan because the interest rate is just too high? So he does not expand his factory's capabilities, right? What else is the government doing? They are producing 87,000 IRS employees, right? Okay, now this is probably the worst of the worst thing that could possibly happen, right? So with your IRS employees, instead of being out there producing goods and services, right, they are doing something that is not producing goods and services. Now let's just imagine for a second they were just digging a hole and filling it back in again. It was completely worthless work. It's the kind of work that they made the Jews do in the Nazi concentration camps, right? Just there to humiliate them. It does nothing, absolutely nothing in terms of productive output. It's just busy work, and you pay these people to do that. Well, that is 87,000 people who are not producing goods and services and increasing the size of this bucket, right? So it has an extremely negative effect if they were only just completely wasting their time. However, they are not completely wasting their time. They are being paid to harass and slow down producers. Understand this. Every single time an entrepreneur or an employee gets a form in the mail, they've got to fill out some bureaucratic form and send it off. That takes away from the time they could be producing. Every single time they get an audit, they've got to dedicate time, energy, resources, brain power, stress, all of it to satisfying this horrific system where you're guilty until proven innocent. Right? Every single time the government interacts you in almost every single way, it slows down production. It slows down entrepreneurs, it slows down employees, and it slows down innovation. All of that is taking away from the healthy way to reduce inflation, which is to increase the amount of goods and services that society produces. Remember, two ways to reduce inflation. You can either lower the money supply, or you can raise the amount of production, right? So here's an answer to the gentleman's question. Isn't there another way to bring down inflation? Yes. Step one, it is the immediate answer. The technical answer is increase output. What is the number one known method to increase production? And that is on the spectrum of central planning to absolute laissez-faire free market capitalism, is to move that direction, right? It is very, very simple. If you want to increase production, you must reduce the size of government, eliminate bureaucrats. Not only does it free up the resources of that human being that is sitting there in a government office doing nothing to produce, they have the double negative effect of harassing the producers, slowing down the producers, right? Limiting the amount of goods and services that are being produced. So, virtually every single thing in the entire Inflation Reduction Act that was passed recently will create more inflation. And this is a death loop, a death spiral. The more inflation comes up, the more governments are going to put up their hands and say, oh, I'll get a solution. Their solution's always the same thing. Increase the size of government. The obvious thing that would work, reduce the size of a government, fire a whole bunch of bureaucrats, eliminate a whole bunch of federal agencies. All of those things that will work, those ideas are not very popular among politicians and bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. In fact, they're never even considered, right? And we get the result is a vicious, vicious death loop. They are creating inflation. Their solution, waste more human capital in useless government buildings, get those humans to harass entrepreneurs, make them produce less, and reduce the amount of products being created. All the while, they need to print more money to pay for those people to do those useless and harmful jobs. It is an absolute remedy for, it is an absolute prescription for more and more inflation. Man, I can tell you now, America is completely fucked if they don't fix this. We have to educate people. You have to teach people. People have to understand, because this is a death loop that just spirals and spirals and spirals down to, in the words of Edward R. Rooney, it is a first-class ticket to nowhere. Give me a shout out in the comments below if you know what movie that's from. So, guys, do me a favor. You got to like this video. You have to share this video with as many people as you can. And just so you know, I say America is completely fucked if it doesn't fix this. It's not just an American problem. The whole world is completely fucked if we don't fix this mentality, right? And the fact that everyone is doing the same dumb shit means that all of the countries around the world are suffering together. And they're going down and down and down. And when you're looking around at everyone and everyone's sinking into the quicksand at the same time, it's hard to notice that you're in quicksand because the frame, everyone, it seems like no one's going forward, no one's going back, right? So all the countries around the world are doing the exact same thing. Massive expansion of government, massive expansion of bureaucracies, massive government spending. That's increasing the amount of money out there because every country in the world, it's their central bank, prints the money, creates new money to pay for all these ridiculous programs. And then what it does is this money is spent to hire people to be unproductive at best if they just did absolutely nothing, but at worst, in the case of the IRS employees, to harass entrepreneurs and producers, limiting. It is an absolute disaster. So you have to do me this massive favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like this kind of content. But above all else, share this. Send it to your friends via emails. Make sure they see this because the world is going to hell in a handbasket real fast, and we're going to go into the biggest recession, depression you can imagine if it is not fixed quickly. And that is going to start with the voters, and we are going to have to vote for people who are promising to just drain the swamp, to borrow a word from Trump, right? We have to do it. There are no other alternatives. Guys, thanks so much. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.